Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. The phrase today is set to be or set to become, and it simply means something is arranged or planned. Now, you need to be careful with this because set has a few other meanings in English. But today we're talking about set to be or set to become. Let me give you a few examples. The company is set to launch its new product next month. The construction of the new bridge was set to begin in June, but it's been delayed. The film festival is set to showcase a record number of films this year. The government's new policy on renewable energy was set to reduce carbon emissions, but they didn't meet the targets. The latest update is set to enhance security features on computers. The team is set to face their rivals in the championship game. The technology firm was set to expand its operations, but it's been delayed indefinitely. So you can hear there that you can use it most commonly in the present and the past tense, but you can use it in all the tenses if the situation arises. Set to be, or arranged, planned. Okay, so I just want to expand on that a little bit by giving you some news. I told you the other day that each of the four nations have their own parliaments, okay, here in the UK. So there's a Scottish Parliament, a Northern Irish Parliament, a Welsh Parliament, and England is looked after by the central government, which maintains all of the parliaments. It can't interfere with their democracies, but it just makes sure that they run smoothly. Each of these parliaments has their own leader, and they're not exactly celebrities, but they're local politicians. Currently, the Welsh Parliament doesn't have a leader. The last one resigned, and there will be an announcement later today to see who's going to be his replacements. So the newspapers are saying the winner of the Welsh election, the man set to become Wales's new First Minister, will be announced later on Saturday. And this is quite historic. I'll tell you why. One of them is black, that's Mr. Gething. And if he wins, he'll become Wales's first black First Minister. We call them First Ministers. Okay, I'll tell you more about that in a second. And if Mr. Miles wins, he would be the country's first gay leader. So, yeah, very interesting, very interesting. It shows the changing face of Britain. And of course, many gay politicians already exist in our parliament and these things, so that's not a big deal. Color is not a big issue here either, so perfectly fine. But just to give you some background, the leaders of our local parliaments, they are referred to as First Ministers. So we have a First Minister of Scotland, a First Minister in Northern Ireland, and whoever wins this election in Wales is set to become the First Minister of Wales. And as I mentioned, the government in England is looked after by the central government. Okay, so Scotland, England, and Northern Ireland operate a little bit differently in that England doesn't have its own parliament. Okay, let me just say that again because I think it's a complicated issue. So let me just go over it one more time. Scotland has its own parliament, Wales has its own parliament, and Northern Ireland has its own parliament. England doesn't have a parliament, but all of its affairs are looked after by the central government who maintain the others. Okay, so each of those parliaments have a first minister. The central government hasn't appointed one for England because there's no parliament. So by default, England is looked after by the Prime Minister and the central government. Confusing, isn't it? Anyway, moving on. So each of these leaders, they're called First Ministers. The First Minister. Okay, so the First Minister of Scotland is a man called Hamza Youssef. The First Minister of Northern Ireland is Michelle. Oh, I can't remember her name. Oh yeah, Michelle O'Neill. And the First Minister of Wales is set to be announced later today. And in England, the Prime Minister looks after the responsibilities of England. You might hear British people talking about how they're all set to do something. Someone might say, oh, I'm all set for my holidays next week, meaning I'm all prepared. Other people might say things like, I'm all set in response to a question. For example, are you ready? Oh, yes, I'm all set. Get the car. Okay, so it's a fairly common thing to say, to be all set, or something is set to happen in the future. Something else which is set to happen very soon is our changes, or at least a big change to our mail services. The government is looking at changing how the mail system works. I mean, after the scandal, I'm not surprised. I've told you about that before, but there's a lot of concerns about that because it's been suggested that maybe they only need to deliver mail 3 days a week. There's also been other opinions that maybe they should just drop Saturdays and so that we can have mail on the other days. But big changes are set to happen to our mail services. They basically want to create a slower, more reliable service by cutting the number of days on which Royal Mail delivers letters. It's called Royal Mail, and they haven't decided whether they will change the days from 6 to 5, or maybe they will even change them to 3. But they're saying whatever they do, there will always be a costly next day service for people who need things urgently. So big changes coming. Big changes are set to happen. Royal Mail is arguing that the sharp fall in letter volumes over the past 2 decades means that currently its business model is unsustainable. Yeah, you see, if it had adopted some kind of service like Amazon, or had opened itself up to other things, it probably could have evolved more quickly. I remember when the internet came out, I was asking the question, well, it would make sense for the Royal Mail to give us all email addresses because, after all, the Royal Mail specialize in communication. It's their thing. And of course, because it's a government department, they generally don't have the ability to think for themselves to survive. They just rely on money being handed to them. Although these days they've been privatized. So, yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. So, whatever happens, big changes are coming to the post office. Big changes are set to happen in the near future. Speaking of things which are set to happen, I had my shopping delivered earlier today. And those of you who know a little bit about British culture, you'll know that we try to do small talk to make up for just for the fact that we don't know each other. In British culture, when you don't know someone very well, or if they're doing a service for you, you try to speak because we're not really comfortable with silence. So this young man who was delivering my shopping, he said, "Oh, I really hope you get the chance to go out and enjoy the good weather today." And I said, "Yeah, I might." And he said, "Why don't you visit the naval base in the north?" And I thought, the naval base? That's a bit of a strange thing to suggest, that I go and visit a military base. But anyway, I said, yeah, maybe. And then he said, "Well, you can enjoy all of these places with your free travel." And I said, "Free travel?" He said, "Yeah, with your free travel pass." Because here, people who are over 60, they travel free on the buses and they have a substantial discount on train services. At least in this part of the country, it's a local government thing, not a national thing. And he said, "Yes." And I said, "How old do you think I am? I'm only 53. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend." I said, "Well, no, you didn't offend me, but I'm just saying I don't have a free bus pass, but thank you anyway." And then, of course, after that, because he felt embarrassed, he actually helped me to unpack my shopping, which is unusual. As you know, they arrive with crates, and I have to take the shopping out of the crates and put it in to my bags and take it to the kitchen. And this is all done at the front door while we're making this small talk. And so, because he felt guilty, having said that I was older, he actually tried to help me unpack a little bit. Yeah. A little bit strange, a little bit strange. But yeah, last week I went to the barber and the same thing happened. I was only having a little haircut. I don't have a lot of hair left to be cut. And he automatically gave me a discount for older people. If you're over 60, you can have your hair cut for £8 instead of 10. Of course, I didn't tell the barber that I was under 60. I happily took the discount, so I was pleased about that. But in this case, this man talking about the free pass, I wanted to say to him, "Oi, be careful. You're set to become an ex-employee if you're not careful, or you're set to be physically harmed if you're not careful." But we joked about it, and then of course I was very bitter the more I thought about it after he left. But anyway, I suppose there are some good things about people thinking that you're older, but not for everything. Maybe my food will be set to be delivered by another provider in the future. If I keep thinking about this, this situation with what this young man said. Anyway, I am set to go to the St. Patrick's Day celebrations, which take place tomorrow. As I mentioned yesterday, there's big parades all over the world for St. Patrick's Day. And there's also lots of things online to give you ideas to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I think people here, many of them will simply drink Irish beers. And religious people will be having religious celebrations to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And everybody else will simply be drinking, going to a music party, or putting on Irish music. So whatever you're doing for St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, I hope you enjoy it. I will try to bring you some kind of live podcast from wherever I go. Of course, because of copyright restrictions, I can't play live music here, so I'll be careful with what you actually get to hear. But either way, it should be enjoyable, shouldn't it? Assuming people don't think that I'm over 60. Anyway, that's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'm sure your day is set to become a happy one. See you. Bye.